Hi, it's a beautiful day. 5 things you can do to prepare in January for your 2026 spring garden. Number 1 is planning. Number 2, start some seedlings in the seeding tray. Number 3 is get necessary supplies. Number 4, clean up the garden bed, make garden bed ready for spring garden planning. Number 5, you can get ahead by planting something now in January directly in your ground, so you don't have to plant all one time in spring. Okay, let's break down these 5 things one by one. January is the best time to plant your spring garden. What are you going to plant? What new crops are you going to add? What crops you are not going to plant? And what kind of mistake did you make in last year fall garden or spring garden? So you can make a necessary change in spring garden. For example, I planted too many pepper plants last year. I ended up having so many peppers to eat all the way. Still, I couldn't eat all of them. All those pepper plants occupied my space in the garden. The second mistake I did is I planted too many leafy greens. Although I planted a variety of leafy greens, however, I planted too many each kind of leafy greens. And I ended up couldn't catch up eating them, and they're getting older. Even I share with friends, still too many leafy greens. Another mistake I made is I did not have spots for all the vegetables I want to plant. When it's time to plant my sweet potato, I couldn't find a place to plant. Finally, I found a place. It has less sunshine, but I planted my sweet potato anyway because I had no place to plant. And the sweet potato did not do as well as I wanted. So planning is very important. It's best to have a layout of your garden bed, and what location has more sunshine, what location more shade, then get a rough draft what crops you would like to plant in the certain spot. This way, you have a spot for each of your crops. After you have your spots ready for each crops, think about if they are companion crops or not. Try to put your crops planted next to companion crops, and consider plant some basils, rosemaries, lavenders, marigolds next to your plants. For me, I normally plant rosemary in the pot. Then I can move the pots around in the garden. If I know the squash easily catch insects, I will put marigold or rosemary next to the squash plants. Just the example. I plant lots of marigold. Marigold, you plant one marigold, you can collect lots of seeds from that one marigold plant. You can just directly sow the seeds right next to your crops. If you have a rose plant, you can just cut the cuttings and bury the cuttings deep enough so the rosemary will live easily. I have never used the root growing hormone. I just directly stuck the rosemary branch into the soil deep enough so the plants will get nutrients from the soil and easily become alive plants. Next thing is when you plant your spring garden, make sure to do the crops rotation. For example, in the fall, you planted certain crops in this area, you might switch to the different crops to plant in that area. Crop rotation is very beneficial to the plants. Don't be hurried to buy seeds. First, check your seeds storage first. See what type of seeds you have. See the expiration date, if any, and see the color of the seeds to see if the seeds is still fresh or not. Then you decided to buy seeds. I made a mistake a few days ago. I was checking in Amazon for something else, and Suddenly across watermelon radish. I love this type of radish. It gets so big and juicy and sweet. You can eat raw, soup, stew, whatever. Much better than American purple turnips, kind of bitter. But the watermelon radish tastes like turnips, but it doesn't have a turnip flavor. I love this type of crops. I saw that I did not have any seeds anymore, so I end up bought one package again. And a few days later, I checked my seeds storage. End up I still have watermelon radish seeds. I waste a few dollars. So check your seeds storage before you buy your seeds. Check what seeds you have, what new plants you want to plant. Then make a list what you want like to buy. And also another thing I want to mention, when you buy your seeds, try to buy non-GMO, open pollinated or heirloom varieties, because this type of crops you can actually save your own seeds later on if you love this type of crops. You don't want to keep buying seeds. If it's possible to save seeds, you save your seeds. Why do we have garden? We garden because we want to eat fresh. We want to eat organically. And also we want to save. If we cannot save, we spend tons of money, end up we don't have much harvest. What is the point of it? Unless you just want to spend the money, just want to have fun, which is fine too. But for me, all applies. I want to save money. I want to eat fresh. I want to have a variety of crops to eat. So when you plant your spring garden for 2026, plant some crops that you won't buy in grocery store. If you love to buy butternut squash in grocery store, you should plant your own butternut squash, acorn squash, sweet potato. If you like to buy in grocery store, then you plant your own. This is the way you save money. So this is the planning part. The second thing I want to talk about is January is the time to start seeding trays. Right now, you can start a plant tomatoes, eggplant, peppers, cauliflower, cabbage, broccoli, and kohlrabi in seeding trays. These few vegetables I don't like to plant them by seeds directly in the ground because they take more time to germinate, and I feel like it's easier to manage them when I plant them in a seeding trays. Last year, I had successfully planted tomatoes, variety of tomatoes, kohlrabi, eggplant in the seeding tray. Why should you plant kohlrabi in the seeding tray? Because kohlrabi loves the cold weather. Cooler weather, they produce the sweet, juicy, tender bulbs. Houston, Texas, weather gets hot quickly. So you want to harvest your kohlrabi before the warm weather arrives. So if you plant your kohlrabi seeds in seeding trays in January right now, once the frost is over, you can transplant your kohlrabi, should be this tall now, directly into the ground. Once you transplant the kohlrabi from a seeding tray into the ground, they grow very, very fast and they produce beautiful, delicious, juicy, and tender bulbs. I learned this from last year spring. My kohlrabi did very well. So in Houston, Texas, we have a few days of freezing weather. Suddenly can get very cold, but the rest of the days could be sunny like today. Look at me, I'm wearing no sleeves. And this is just the beginning of the January, but it gets colder in late January and in February. When I start my seeding trays, I don't put my seeding trays under the growing light. No, I don't do that. I put the seeding trays under the covered patio and stay away from the cold wind in winter. My covered patio doesn't get the morning sunshine. However, it gets the afternoon sunshine about from noon all the way to 5 o'clock. Gets about 5 hours of sun. I think that's enough. So I leave my seeding trays outside. If there are a few days of cold weather, I just bring the seeding trays indoors next to the window, so they get some sunshine indirectly from outside. Once the weather gets warmer, or even if outside is colder, but the sunshine make me feel warm, then I will put my seedling outside. Let them have some natural sunshine. I did this last year, and my seedlings all did very good. The third thing that I want to talk about is get some other supplies. For example, cow manures, compost. If you don't have any, cow manure does wonder to me. So I like cow manure to give some extra nitrogen. Cow manure is more low balanced NPK ratios over there. So get some cow manure, topsoil, some good compost, have them ready. So you are not too busy when spring comes, you start to plant, you already have all your supplies ready. The number 4 thing that I want to talk about is look at your garden to see which area most likely grow weeds. In my garden, the weeds growing very fast is between my garden bed and the wooden fence. When spring comes, the weeds just poof, grow so fast. In the past, I actually spent too much time pulling the weeds, very, very alone. Finally, I learned a trick. I just bought a weed blocker, the black plastic, but it's for weed blocker. Then I cut them into pieces, then spread them along the area between the garden and the fence. Then dump mulch on top of the weed blocker, the black weed blocker. So it looks more natural, and this way the weeds will not pop out suddenly. Between the garden bed, and I have to pull. So alone now I'm so happy I don't have to pull those weeds. Save me so much time. Last thing that I want to talk about in January is you could start planting some stuff already, so you don't have to wait all planting in March. If you plant it now, you can harvest some on the way. For example, you can plant leafy green cool crops such as lettuce, kale, peas, mustard green, cilantro right now in January. You can plant root crops such as carrots, turnips, or radishes. Kohlrabi too. Garlic green. You might think like me long time ago, what happened if I planted right now, the cold freezing weather comes, it will kill all those little seedlings. True, they will die from cold freeze. But nothing to lose to try. So I planted some of mine already. The reason I planted them now, so I have a head of start. If there are 2 to 3 days or a week of cold freezing weather, my seedlings still small, I just cover my seedlings with a cardboard box. I have been collecting cardboard box after Christmas. The people, after they receive their gifts, they just dump all their boxes. I actually literally with my husband drove around and asked him to help me to pick up some big size of a cardboard box. Last year, I learned from my experience. The cardboard box covered crops retained the heat much better than I use other stuff to cover my crops. And also cardboard box has the shape, doesn't touch the crops. So the cold weather will not get to them. So last year, I covered them with my cardboard box. Then on top of the card box, I cover a blanket. Then on top of the blanket, I cover a plastic. So this way, if it rains, my crops will not get wet. So my crops were not damaged from the cold weather. Okay, I hope this video helps you in some way, somehow. All these tasks actually I am doing in January for my spring garden in 2026. I wanted to get all the things done as early as possible, so I will not overwhelmed when the spring comes. Thank you for watching. Have a fantastic day. Bye bye.